Welcome to This Week in Health IT events, where we amplify great ideas with interviews from the floor. My name is Bill Russell, Healthcare CIO coach and creator of This Week in Health IT, a set of podcasts and videos dedicated to developing the next generation of health leaders. We want to thank our founding channel sponsors who make this content possible, HealthLyrics and VMware. If you want to be a part of our mission to develop health leaders, go to thisweekhealth.com/sponsor for more information. This episode is sponsored by HealthLyrics. When I became a CIO, I was really overwhelmed at first, and one of the first things I did was to sign a CIO coach to walk with me through the journey. This was someone who had wisdom that can only be gained through years of experience. It was invaluable to my success in the role, and I now coach CIOs through HealthLyrics. If you want to learn more, visit healthlyrics.com or drop me a note at bill@thisweekinhealthit.com. Over the next 3 weeks, we have a huge treat for you. I'm really excited about it. I just got back from the CHIME Fall Forum in Scottsdale, which was a great event, and we caught up with 12 active CIOs from various size health systems and asked them to take a look back at 2019 and a look forward at 2020. You're going to hear what they're excited to have accomplished last year and what they're looking forward to accomplish next year. I asked each of them the same 8 questions, and I think you're going to be fascinated to hear the similarities and the differences based on where they're at, geography, and other things. Each of these interviews is about 10 minutes long, so you can listen to them really quick, and some of you listen at 1.5 times speed, so it's going to go like that. We're going to publish one a day with a few Newsday episodes sprinkled in through the end of November, so check back every day for the next episode, and don't forget to look back to see if you missed any. Our next guest is Chani Cordero, who is the former Chief Information Officer for the Darnell Army Medical Center. She is now taking on a new role up in Monterey, is still with the military, and she's going to talk a little bit more about that. Hope you enjoy. So here we are from the CHIME Fall Forum. I'm here with Chani Cordero. Mm-hmm. Wow, look at all those ribbons. Oh. Boot camp alumni and Most Wired. Oh, you guys were Most Wired.
We were.
That's a huge accomplishment.
So I'm really excited because this was the first time our hospital actually received that recognition, and so I'm so honored to come and accept it on their behalf.
That's fantastic. And that is a fair amount of work for that team. They really have to step up.
It was. And so the hospital is new, and so we had a little bit of help in a sense because we were able to get our infrastructure in place compared to if you have an older hospital that has like old, lines or whatnot. So we were able to do that, and we brought in a lot of new equipment. So I think this year was the perfect time as we started optimizing what we had. We were able to compete for the recognition.
So you have changed roles since the last time you were on the show.
Yes.
And you're prolific on social media, so I think a lot of people know, but why don't you give us a CIO and then you move to a new role?
Right, so I just got there last week to Monterey, but I am now what we call in the military health system a Deputy Command Administration, but it's really essentially a COO role. And so within that role, I will be in charge of our logistics, our budget, our managed care, the payer side in the sense of working out those network contracts or whatnot, and then of course the productivity side. So are we being productive in our service lines?
And how many hospitals?
So it's just they're really actually kind of like super clinics, and they're 2 super clinics, and we also have a share with the VA.
Wow. That's exciting. Are you excited? I assume you're excited.
I am. So, because, even in private sector, you don't typically see a lot of CIOs go to COO world. In Army medicine, that's not typical at all for us. And so we, normally as a CIO, I stay in a CIO. So even though I'm not getting paid any more money, it's essentially a promotion.
So, as my dad says, we pay you an opportunity. So it's the Army pays you an opportunity.
The Army,
here you go.
And they did. Well, they sweetened the pot though by allowing me to move from Central Texas to the coast of California. So
so you're up in Monterey?
Yes.
Monterey is nice. That's where Pebble Beach is.
Yes.
But it can also get pretty cold there too, can't it?
So compared to Texas, absolutely. So I think the first night I went there was like 50 degrees, and I'm like, I finally get to pull my Uggs out.
Yeah, I was up there probably about 6 months ago, I went up there, and my son was up there as well, and he met up with me, and he forced me to go play disc golf. And I guess
Nice.
they have a disc golf course where they played the U.S. Open
Yes.
disc golf championship, and we played that course.
Nice.
It was a lot harder than really a course than I really should have been on.
Yes.
But it was
yes.
a lot of fun.
Yes, no, I mean, the weather there, I mean, is perfect all year round. I mean, so I've heard. The only disadvantage, of course, is the cost of living. So I'm hoping I get to keep my 2 kidneys, but it's debatable right now.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've asked these questions of 15 CIOs now.
Okay.
So, and my thought was it'll be interesting to hear the different questions, our different answers, and it has been interesting because I've just listened to all of them because I did the interviews. Rural's struggling with different things than
Yes.
urban, than different geographies have different challenges and those kind of things. So it'll be interesting to hear some of these things from your CIO perspective. How do you think the roles changed over the past year?
So I think, again, the role of the CIO is still to be a partner with like the providers and the clinicians or whatnot. I think sometimes you still sometimes are looked, I jokingly say, as the plumber, making sure that technology works and not really being placed as a partner. But I think as the organization continues to rely on technology, they're recognizing that you have to partner up with IT.
Yeah, so it's moving from a plumber to maybe an architect.
Good analogy, yes.
So you're sitting there planning the building and what it's going to look like with them, instead of when they're done planning it going, hey, can you put pipes there? It's like, no.
Right, exactly.
So I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but what were the priorities where you were, and how's Health IT going to support those priorities?
No, I can answer that definitely. And so just like private sector, the military health system is looking at using virtual health, telemedicine. And so my population is relatively healthy, right? I mean, essentially we're service members or whatnot. And so I have that demographics that doesn't require a lot of services. And so our bread and butter is primary care. And so when it comes to the telehealth, telemedicine space, it's not as easy to go after primary care in that setting. We've done quite well in the mental health space, and so if we have challenges there, it's really more about provider availability, more so, and access, more so than the technology.
So you guys care for the armed force, the people within the Army base, their families, anything outside of that?
And retirees.
Veterans? Okay.
So not veterans, only retirees, and their
okay.
families.
Okay. That's it. That's interesting. So the reason I asked that question is the next question I've been asking is, what's you talked about telehealth, but what's one thing that if I were talking to that community, I could say, hey, you could look forward to this. This is how we're going to move the needle on patient experience.
So patient experience is an area that we're probably struggling more so than in private sector, mainly is because my patient population is pretty well defined. So I don't really have to market as much, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to be the bright and shiny object that come to my hospital, but our patients do have choices. So maybe not the active duty member, you don't have a choice, you got to come to us. But their families have choices, retirees have choices, and we are essentially a capitated model. So what does that mean is that we get paid to take care of those family members, and if they choose to take their care to the private sector, then we'll lose resources as well. And so we are looking at how do we expand on the patient experience, but I have to admit it has not necessarily been one of our top priorities.
Well, it's interesting because on the other side, on the private sector side, you would look at telehealth and go, well, we can't figure out how to get it funded, but on your side, it's completely capitated. Telehealth would be pretty well received, hey, and actually drive down a lot of the overhead of certain ailments.
Yes, the challenge that we have, I think, and this is just Chani's opinion, is the security aspect of it. And so we are very guarded with our information, and we're very guarded of who has access and ability and what platform is going to have access to that information. And so as we change our culture to partner up with some of those outside providers that allows for HIPAA compliant applications or whatnot, and allowing that to work, then I think we'll move the needle.
That makes sense. One initiative that's focused in on the clinician experience?
The clinic, no. So I wish I could say yes, but not at my current hospital.
Yeah. So thinking back to your team, what a chance to give a shout out to your team. What's the thing you're most proud of that your team that you're leaving was able to accomplish?
So I think, this may not something that's very measurable, but I took it's nothing very measurable, but I actually measured it, right? So when I first arrived, I did a real-time survey on staff satisfaction. And we did it using an application, web-based, had it up on a board for everybody can see. So when I left, I did that same survey, and I compared the answers to see, did we move the needle? And there were some areas that we moved the needle we moved the needle. I had wished that we moved it more, but at least we moved it in all areas.
And in a positive direction.
In a positive direction. Yes. And so, the lesson I learned from that, though, is you can't change culture that quickly. And I really thought, new leadership, you can change the culture really fast, and it takes time. And I have to remember that.
And there's also a culture within a culture, right? So there's the culture of the military, and then there's the culture of the Army, and then there's the culture that you have within your department.
No, you're right, absolutely.
And that same thing happens in the private sector as well. There's the culture of the health system. And I think it's interesting because we just assume, we create with these core values and they're just going to permeate health IT. And it's like, well, you put us off on a building all by ourselves over here, and it's sort of developing its own culture. So
it does,
really,
right?
That's something you really have to work at.
You do. So in one of my areas that I just really wanted to move the needle on, it was just communication and not, trying to break down some of the silos. And so again, it wasn't, we didn't reach the mountaintop like I wanted to, but no one's blocking each other on Facebook, so.
Moving it forward. Is there any area in healthcare as an industry you'd like to see more innovation?
Specifically within healthcare?
Yeah, within healthcare that you think, wow, I really wish there was more innovation in that area that was moving, making things
health disparities. So, based on your zip code, your life expectancy is going to change, right? And so, numerous studies have shown that health disparity is real in the United States. And so, obviously the social determinants of health plays a huge role, genetics plays a huge role, but we need to be, as we try to keep people or patients healthy, we also have to recognize that not all patients are receiving that same level.
Yeah, Dr. Klasko was talking in Philadelphia. He goes, if you're born in this hospital, that's great. Mortality rate, we've done great work here. We're a phenomenal hospital.
Yeah.
You'll be brought in. But if you go home with a family that goes in that direction, your average age is going to be, I forget what it was, like 78 point whatever. If you go in that direction, it's like 62. It's like, so what's different? It's just zip code. It's essentially, in that neighborhood, it's harder to get good food. It's there's gang activity. There's a whole bunch of issues that he goes. And the thing I appreciated about him is he goes, I went to the board and we're talking about compensation. They said, what's important to you? I said, improving the health of the people in Philadelphia. He said, okay, my compensation has nothing to do with that. And I said, what do you mean? I said, well, let's look at my comp. They looked at his comp and he goes, you're right, it has nothing to do with the health of the people in Philadelphia. All it has to do with is the performance of the hospital. Right. And so he goes, all right, if you want that to be if that's our goal, then I want 25% of my compensation to be the health of this community, which I thought was bold.
Absolutely.
Because you have to partner. You can't do that by yourself.
Right. And you have to care about the community that you're serving, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that would be, I'd like to see more CEOs sign up for that and say we're going to, And I'd be remiss. You don't really do this. I surveyed the audience, the listeners. I said, what questions you want me to ask CIOs more in the future? And they said, ask them about what roles they're going to hire. But you don't really hire roles, do you?
You mean far as in the whole the CDO and Chief Innovation Officer, things of that nature?
Yeah. I mean...
so no, we do. I mean, I have a CTO, Chief Technical Officer.
Do you hire them or do you pull them from...
So, it's a misnomer. I'm really glad you asked that question. So, as we talk about our health system, out of 78 people on my staff, only 2 of us is active duty. The rest of them are federal contractors and federal employees. And so I have to deal with the same challenges that everyone has. I have union negotiations. I have, people calling out. I have vacation. I have the same challenges. Labor issues. I have, if it's a government shutdown, my federal employees may not come to work. So, there is a lot of areas that we deal with. And so, no, we do hire. And we have not, other than the Chief Technical Officer, we have not done all the other alphabet soup.
It's going to be, because you're in Monterey now, that's, right down the street from Apple and everybody else. It'll be interesting to see. From a health IT standpoint, but you're now over a larger group, but it's a challenge to hire in this.
Oh, no, it is. Well, it's going to be, fine, especially if you live on the coast, right? So I have a resume for one of our positions, and I don't know if that person will be able to, how long they're going to be here, because I don't know sure how they're going to afford to live.
Yeah. Actually, somebody asked me about a role up in that area, and it's interesting because they said, well, what's the compensation? And we went through the whole thing. And I'm doing the math and I'm going, I don't think I can afford to take that job. Just based on the compensation and the area you have to move to and the cost of real estate.
No, absolutely. The one thing that I really appreciate the military do is that when the service members are looking to retire or transition out, they have programs, and one of the programs is actually teaching members that the compensation rates and then why it matters. The salary in California is definitely going to be a different salary in Texas, and would it matter? I'm sorry, salary, but in the sense the impact of your lifestyle, it matters. So,
well, congratulations on getting to California.
Thank you.
The promised land. Well, we'll find out.
Yeah, right. Well, the sunshine has already got me. So.
Yeah. Well, you had sunshine in Texas.
I had lots of sun. I don't know too much sun.
My daughter goes to Baylor.
Oh, nice.
She left Southern California, went to Bears.
Yeah.
She does that
my grad school, I went to Baylor.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
It's fun. I'll be on the phone with her, and she'll just walking around the campus. She'll go, "Sick 'em Bears." I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, that's sort of like saying hi. Like, okay. But her Southern California to Waco, Texas. Her first thing was, I'm not sure I was prepared for how hot it is. And now she just called me and said, it's freezing. I'm not sure I even expected it. It's kind of wild. So, Chani, thank you for joining us.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Remember to check back often, as we are going to drop an episode a day for most of November of 2019. Following that, please come back every Friday for more great interviews with influencers, and don't forget, every Tuesday we take a look at the news which impacts health IT. If you want to support the fastest growing podcast in the health IT space, here's a few ways that you can do that. The first, share it with a peer, share it with a friend, share it with somebody who's working right there next to you. Number 2, sign up for Insights and Staff Meeting. These are services designed to help you in your career. Number 3, interact with our social media content on Twitter and LinkedIn. Number 4, post or repost our content. And number 5, always send me feedback, bill@thisweekinhealthit.com. Your insights continue to shape the channel. This show is a production of This Week in Health IT. For more great content, you can check out our website at thisweekhealth.com or our YouTube channel. Special thanks to our sponsors, VMware and HealthLyrics, for choosing to invest in developing the next generation of health leaders. Thanks for listening. That's all for now.